Thanks again, everyone, for joining. Today is the third day of our Designer Academy. So maybe you've been with us the last 2 days, or maybe this is the first day. We've been sharing the recordings as we go. So even if you weren't able to make it yesterday or on Tuesday, you should have gotten those recordings as well. So my name is Katie. I'm on the product marketing team. I apologize, I'm having some technical issues, so I'm going to leave my camera off. And so I work closely with a lot of our customers to understand how you're using the features within Houzz Pro and get your feedback, and then also share that feedback with our engineering and product teams to make sure that we're building the right features for what you need. And then Suman, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, maybe you guys have spoken to me before and we have interacted, but I am someone I've been with Houzz for the last 6 years. I'm one of the Houzz Pro QuickBooks integration experts. So I work with integrations, integrating Houzz to QuickBooks. So if you ever were planning on integrating or have integrated, happy to get in touch and assist with that part of the Houzz platform.
Awesome. Okay, so I will share. Today we're going to be focusing on collaborating and getting paid. So who doesn't want to get paid? So we're going to go through creating POs. We'll also talk about the procurement phase with our selections tracker. We'll give an overview of our financial reports, and then we'll cover our Google Drive integration as well as our team chat feature. So we will be sharing this recording afterwards. Don't feel like you need to take notes on everything. You'll be getting the recording later on today. As we go through, feel free to add any questions you have into the Q&A tab, and we will do our best to answer them either through the chat or we can have Suman answer them live as well.
So we are going to start off with purchase orders. Purchase order is one segment of your accounting, which is your procurement. And when you're purchasing items and all of that, you want to record that information. And there are a couple of ways to record your purchase orders. And feel free to like chat if you had like wanted like info on purchase orders. But generally, it is any of the expenses or anything that you're purchasing for the project. So that's your outgoing expenses essentially. So one way, the most recommended way to do your purchase order is called through, it's called like a linked document, or you're doing it through like a proposal or invoice. So let's say usually the first step of the process is you creating a proposal, right? You put together a proposal, you send it over to your client, and then they approve it. And now it comes the next stage when you want to start ordering items from your proposal, right? And when you start ordering it, Houzz makes it super simple. So you're not literally having a spreadsheet and you're kind of tracking like, hey, like what do I need to order and who am I going to order from? So one is it's called like if you have created a proposal, if you go in under actions, it gives you an option to create a purchase order from that. I'm just going to add a line item to this so you can see how that looks, because everything else I've created a purchase order for. So I'm just going to add one line item at the end. All right. And okay, 175. Perfect. And then now let's go ahead and create purchase orders. And you should see this option. So go ahead and you can click into that. And as you can see, I have two of these items, and then you can select a vendor. So you could say, well, this is for whichever vendor. And then usually what happens is if it's for the same vendor, it will club it as one purchase order. But let's say this one was from Home Depot. It's going to create two different purchase orders. So let's go ahead and create two different ones. See, create purchase order, super simple. And what it does is that it also links it to your estimate. So all of it is in a week, all connected. So then you're not kind of like having to, so if you see it says one linked document and your purchase order has the estimate linked. Now let's go ahead and open this purchase order. All right. And then here it's basically your cost. So you can, what I usually say just from an accounting perspective is just confirm your cost, because cost always fluctuates. So you could have estimated the cost to be 175, but the vendor is like, now it's 180. So you just want to make sure that you are kind of manually checking your number. And then you could say, and once you're done recording it, now the next part of it is where you can schedule a payment, which is essentially logging the payment. So let's say you made a credit card payment or you sent to a vendor a check, you can then go and log a payment. And then in order to mark the PO, you just have to mark the PO as billed. And then you can then select, well, it was a check, it was a credit card. You can, from your drop down, select that. And then you want to make sure that you're selecting the date and then click done. And then now you have a paid purchase order. Um, and this is the same process when it comes to invoice as well. When you are creating an invoice, you can from your invoice also create a purchase order. It's the same process where if you were to go into an invoice, and let me see if I have an invoice that you can create a purchase order, but you could just then from there create a purchase order. The second way to create a purchase order is right under the project. So if you go into your projects, and I'm doing my project is the Nelson Residence, and then if you scroll down to under finance, you have an option that says purchase order. This shows basically all of your purchase orders. It also gives you the status, if it's paid, your linked document, the date it's been created. It also at the top will show you the total POs and then how much has been paid from that, and then the balance that's been owed. So it's kind of like a little bit like your accounts payable report, like it gives you an insight of your purchases. And then another way to create your purchase order is at the top right. There is an option that says create a new purchase order, and then this is like a manual process. It's not a linked purchase order, so you basically we would go in here and say this was for Home Depot, and then create the purchase order, and then you could just like basically like add in a line item, add in the line item, and then you could just say, well, this is a purchase order, same process. The biggest difference though is if it's not a linked document, it doesn't show up in your budget and things like that. So it's not linked to any document. Once you create a purchase order this way, there's no way to link it to like an estimate or invoice. So this is probably a good option to create a purchase order if it's something that's not on your estimate and invoice, and but was still an expense or something that you incurred, that you wanted to just record under the project. So let's say it wasn't an item that's part of your estimate or invoice, but you let's say went and bought something that's not part of your estimate or your invoice, like it was just like a random thing you had to buy, like a piece of tile or something, then you could just create a purchase order that's not connected to your estimate or invoice. But it is recommended to probably do the one where you created from an estimate or an invoice. And then the same thing, you could go log a payment. Any questions so far?
There was just one question I think you covered, but you can create a PO for products that are not part of Houzz, right? You can just select the relevant vendor for them.
Yes. When you mean not part of Houzz,
Not from the Houzz marketplace, for instance, for outside.
oh yeah, of course. Yeah. So if you're creating, like, you can any product that's on your estimate or invoice that you've clipped or added, or you can create an item. So you can even, I can go into a purchase order and create a new item and say, well, I wanna this is a new item that's not in my product library, and then you could still create that and add that in and add in the amount, and it's all tied in. So it doesn't have to be something that's just part of the Houzz library. Another thing that I get asked quite a lot, and a feature that's great, is merging purchase orders, because sometimes what happens is you might have created two purchase orders for the same vendor, but in theory you're going to write them one check, right? You're not going to send them like two separate checks. And you don't want like four different POs for the same vendor if it's all around the same time frame. the only way you can merge a purchase order is there are two main things. One, the purchase order needs to be created under the same project. So if it's under the Nelson residence, I can go ahead and it doesn't give me an yeah. So do you see how it has the option to merge purchase order? So it needs to be under the same project. It needs to be under the same vendor. So I can merge two purchase orders for the same vendor. So if I'm writing, it's a purchase order for Home Depot and I have another PO, I can merge that. So this one, I can go ahead and merge this vendor. And the second part of it is that it cannot be billed or marked as paid. So the purchase order should, if it's paid or billed, then it cannot be merged. So as long as it's not in any of those statuses and it's just an open PO and there are two open POs for the same vendor, you can go ahead and merge it. And now you have both of that information under, as you can see, like there's two of the same thing. The items can be different items. It just so happened that it's the same item, but you could have like a different item, but it could be all under the same purchase order. So any questions here?
Just one question from Vino. How can I send the purchase order to my subcontractor instead of the vendor? That's actually something we're going to be launching in the next few weeks, and we have a beta that's going to be going out to interested pros. So if you want, I can submit you so you can be included in that beta. You can try it out before anyone else.
Awesome.
That is something we've gotten feedback about.
Great. Okay, so we can move on to selection tracker.
Suman, it's a little bit hard to hear you.
Oh, is it better now?
Your camera.
Oh, is it better now?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, awesome. All right. Next, let's go into selection tracker. Any of you tried this before I get into it? Alrighty, okay. So selection tracker is an amazing feature, and if you haven't used it or haven't tried it, please go ahead and try it. It's great to basically track. It just kind of gets rid of the whole manual process of tracking, because I think that's a big part of design is sending the estimate and then purchasing and then kind of tracking your purchasing and which status it's on. So selection tracker, right now we're looking at the format all, and what it's doing is it's showing you the item that it's been approved. It's showing you which documents that item has been used on. So let's say you had the item on a purchase order and on an invoice or a proposal. It's basically showing you that. And it has different tabs, which you could also customize your tabs, but it's giving you basically all of that information in one glance. Like you basically know, you can see and if you click on this little eye, it gives you insight on the item, like the title, the category, if it's part of a room, the link to the product. It also shows you the vendor, so you can put in like vendor description, the SKU number, the manufacturers. It has all of this information, so it's almost like your one-stop shop to see all of that. And at the same time, it kind of gives you the selling cost. So like if your cost was a specific item, an amount, and then your selling price was different, it's giving you your at a glance your markup. And the biggest thing is your order tracking. So it basically tells you your order date, your estimate ship date. You can fill that in. It makes it a lot easier, right? So even for any of your team members, if they're part of the process, you have a big team, and that kind of makes things a lot easier. There's not any confusion. You can just go in. And the best thing about it is, let's say you change something over here. If you change, like, let's say your order date, it will update on the document as well. So because it's all already been invoiced, I'm trying to find a document that has not been approved but yeah, this is a draft. So if you were to change anything on the tracker, it should update on the document and vice versa. So if you go into the purchase order and change like you're changing like the ship date or the delivery date, then that will also update in your selection tracker. So it's not like you have to go in and then write it like twice. And then other good thing is also you have these views here. So if you click just on procurement, it's showing you all of your purchase orders. So procurement is anything to do with purchasing. So this is only showing you that part of your sorry, it's just refreshing. It's just showing you that part of your project. And then and then you can also customize your fields. So if you want it to be where, hey, like I don't really care to see order status, you can, uncheck the whole order tracking information. But then this is all the information you could see at a glance, and then you can also add a new field if you wanted to. Any questions on this?
Nope, no questions.
Okay, great. So selection tracker is great and also has different options here. So you can also look at financials. So it kind of focuses on the tabs are more focused on the financial aspects of things. And then the planning, you can see that the fields are more specific to planning process. So at the top, it's basically the same information, but it's breaking it down to that part of it. So if you were looking at financials, it's looking at, if you see, it shows you unit cost, selling cost, quantity, cost, markup. If you're looking at planning, it's showing you description, details, specification, document status, everything that you would need for your planning phase. Procurement is just pulling in your purchase order, and then all is giving you all of that information under one tab. Most popular is all because it gives you everything, but all you also have the option to toggle between these different fields. All right, so this was your selection tracker, and then if you wanted to, sorry, there was one other thing that, yeah, sorry, I just also wanted you to show you could also assign. So if you wanted to assign this to a specific team member, you could do that. So that also makes it easier, because then you can just basically, if you wanted to add in notes, you could do that. So there's a lot of things that you could add into it, or you could keep it as simple as you want to. So it's up to you on how detailed or how simple you want to go in your selection tracker. It should also have your linked documents. So has your purchase order, invoice, proposal, you can go into that document. All right, so we can move on to financials. And this is a really big part of your Houzz Pro. It gives you your financial, which is, if you click into financial, it has a lot of different places you can go into. One is reports. It's huge, shows you, and we'll deep dive into your reports. The second is your QuickBooks online dashboard. So if you ever decide to integrate your house with QuickBooks, this is where you go. You go under financials and QuickBooks online dashboard, and then you could link your house with QuickBooks. The next is your online payment and instant payouts. So if you wanted to set up your online payments, this is where you could do it. And then your instant payouts is also a great feature where you can skip on the wait time, and then you could just basically pay a small fee, but then you get the money instantly, which is great, because sometimes with design you have to pay your people you're working with, people working under you, you have vendors to pay, and then sometimes if you just want that instant payout, you have that option. And then also there's an option if you decide to do homeowner financing, there's also that option. So we'll start off with reports. If you click into reports, it's pretty much everything is in the reports that you could see, but it starts off your payments report. So it shows you your incoming and outgoing. So it shows you both. It shows your in and out, the money that you're, so total payout, total invoice, and all of that information is in your payments report. Your payout report is all of your payouts that's initiated from the bank. So this is any of your online payments, your payouts report. It basically shows you that information. Sales tax liability report. This is super great. It's you have all of this information, which I know it's always like a big thing when it comes to sales tax. It's confusing. There's so much information you need to track. And this makes it a lot easier. If you run your tax liability report, you can toggle between cash and accruals. So depending on what method of reporting you do, you can basically toggle between cash and accrual. You can look at different tax rates. If you just wanted to look at the Denver, you can customize the report. So the biggest thing about all these reports is super customizable. So you can go in and say, well, I wanted to just see tax for Colorado. You could do that. You wanted to take a glance at all of your taxes. You could do that as well. You can also toggle between different projects. So you could say, I just want to take a look at this specific project, Sam Gold. You can do that, apply, and then it'll just show you the numbers for that report. And the linked invoices is basically, it shows you all of the invoices that makes up your numbers. So if you were looking at this $78, you're like, okay, so how is this getting calculated? It's listing you the invoices, so it makes it a lot easier, even if you're working with accountants, for them to take a look at the report and say, okay, these are the invoices, and then it's almost for checks and balances. It helps a lot. Any questions so far?
Yes. One question from Kat. She said that in the older version, you were able to see basically one memo with all, or an overview with all the POs and invoices. Is there a way to see that currently? There's an all POs section, right?
For which one is for what, the report, or was it for purchase order? What was this for?
I think it's, sorry, going back to purchase orders.
Oh, purchase orders. Okay, sorry. What was the question again, Katie?
If there's a way to see all the purchase orders and invoices at one spot.
Yeah, so all the purchase orders, like if you just wanted to see all the purchase orders, if you go under your search icon on the top left and look under finance, there's something called all purchase orders. And then if you click into that, it says for all of your projects across the board. So it's not just one project. So it has like the Nelson, it has the sample. So, and then all your different vendors. Yeah, it's like it gives you a snapshot of all of your, and then it shows your linked documents and all of that information. Was that what you wanted to know?
I think so. Kat, please let us know if that's not exactly what you're looking for, and we can always share that feedback with our team.
All right. Okay. So we'll go back. So under financials, we're going back into reports. Great. So that was the tax liability report, and then the payments report. Again, everything is customizable. The next big one is your incoming transaction by project. It's pretty much all of your income. So anything that's to do with, let's click into view report. Okay, so this is basically showing you all of your projects, and again, customizable. So you could say, I just want to see this project. I just want to see my incoming for, the Nelson residence. That's all I wanted to see. You can basically click from the drop down and select that. And then also, for example, this is in progress. So you can just do it per status as well. So open, in progress. And you can also, this is a great feature and most accountants love it because it shows you by type. So incoming report in general will show your money received against a retainer, against it's also showing you documents that are part of like your income. So you have like an unpaid retainer, you have your paid retainer, but the most common usually are your invoices. So you want to see, so you can select you can issued and not issued, and then generate report. And now it's only showing you all of your invoices. It shows your transaction type. It shows the biggest thing is it also shows you what these payments were applied against. So if it's multiple payments, you can hover over to view. So it says deposit was 602, upon completion is this much, and then the payment, like it's showing you your payment breakdown. So let's say you had like a schedule, it's pretty much giving you that overview. So it's showing you payment 1, payment 2, and all of that information. So it makes it super easy, especially when you're doing taxes or if you're trying to, figure out profit and loss. It's giving you that information. And then it also, if there was a payment that was applied from a retainer against an invoice, it's also showing you that information. So this is pretty much your incoming, anything to do with the money received. And then if you go back, and then there's a report for outgoing, that's to do with your purchases. So anything that has been purchased, all of that information is in here. And again, you can toggle between projects, toggle between vendors. You can do between billed or unbilled purchase order. And then you can also group by project name, or if you wanted to just group by vendor, if you wanted to say, well, how much did I actually purchase from Home Depot in the last year, you can group by vendors. So I always say these drop downs are great because it helps you. It's like if you're trying to look for a synopsis, like an overview, it's great to kind of just leave it as is. But then if you wanted to drill down, you also have the option to do so. And again, in your column settings, if there's something you wanted to see, not want to see, you can toggle. And then if you click on generate report, that's essentially what triggers generating the report. Another thing I just quickly wanted to highlight was save report view. You can always save the report view, and that way it's always there. Anytime you were I just want to see drill down by vendor, you can then just go and click, because you could just save it and call it what you want to call it. And then once you're under your finance reports, you can open that report up. Any questions so far?
No, we're good to keep going.
Okay, we'll continue on. So one is good payments report. So that's a detailed report of your income outgoing. So it has a little bit of information on all of it. And then all right, cool. So this basically is showing you your invoices. It shows the reference number. So it's kind of like a payments report, just gives you all of that information. Another good thing also about the payment report is if you can, Katie, click on payment type, you can basically, if you have online payments you're receiving from Houzz, you can always click on online. And then also, Katie, if you can click group by, right now it's a demo account, so there isn't any online payment, but it's good to, if you have online payments, you can click the drop down, select online, also group by. You can, if you click on transfer ID, what it does is that if you have an online payment that you're receiving, it also groups it by any online payment that's all linked to the same. So let's say that you receive $10,000. Typically what happens is if you have an online payment, and let's say the client decided to pay for 4 different invoices, and it's like an online payment, they decided to pay 4 different, what you see in your bank is a lump sum, right? You'll see $10,000, which is a breakdown of, let's say, a payment for 4 different invoices. So one way of finding out what the breakdown is, which is very important if you're working with accounting or you have bank recs to do at the end of the month, just knowing what the lump sum breakdown is. One way to do it is by transfer ID. So you can do online payment, group it by transfer ID, and lumps all of your online payments that has the same transfer ID together. So just good to know. And then your payment type, you could do all, and then you could see your manual payments. And when it says manual payment, what that basically means is, let's say you received a check or a wire transfer that's not from Houzz, and you're manually going and entering in the payment. That's typically what the manual payment means. And then online is anything that's sent through Houzz and then paid online, either credit card or ACH. Any questions on this? All right, okay. And then the next is, if you go back, Katie, cool. And then the payouts, click view report. This is if you are paying online, also this is the payouts report is another way to see your breakdown. It's a demo account, so we don't have that logged in, but typically you can see the transfer IDs, what the first report, the same thing, but this is another report you can just run and it's just easier. But I know like some accountants prefer doing it the transfer ID way, so I just kind of wanted to show both ways to do it. Yeah, Katie, so we can go back. Cool. And then sales tax liability view report. Everybody loves taxes, so this is a great report to just have, but also very helpful when you have to pay your sales tax. You can run this report. If you can, Katie, hit accounting method. Yeah, so you can toggle between cash and accrual. So depending on your accounting method, you can basically toggle between either or. You can also, your date range, you can dictate your date range. So usually it's quarterly, so you can just click this quarter, last month, or you can just manually select your dates. And also your tax rates. If you click the drop down for tax rates, you can, if you just wanted to, let's say you're paying taxes and you just wanted to see Denver and not all of your taxes, you can customize your report to see that. And one other thing when it comes to this report is it shows you your linked invoices. So if you look at these numbers and you see, this is my tax amount, this is my taxable amount, where are these numbers coming from? It's coming from these invoices. So your linked invoices is what's pulling in the numbers. So it really helps if you wanted to drill in to see, okay, my taxes were $200, where is the breakdown? You can see the invoices, click into the invoice so you can like real time open it and see the tax rate and the amount. Any questions on tax liability report? Okay, cool. We can move on. And then if you go back into finances, all right, the next is your incoming and outgoing. So the incoming transaction report by project is basically all of your income, all of the money received, all of that is considered incoming. Here again, you can customize it by project. You can customize your report by type. So you could say, well, I just want to see my issued invoices, or I just want to see my invoices and my proposal, but not really my retainer. So you can really customize this report as the information you want to see. And all of again, if you wanted to see your archive clients, like what money you received from a project that was archived, you can also toggle and see that information. So it's a great report. And then if you, Katie, can scroll to the right, it shows you all of your balance, your total, and you can also see the total proposed, the total approved, your statuses, and then also your taxable, your tax rate. So this is another place where you can see your taxable costs, your tax rate, your tax amount. And then if you wanted to see a complete breakdown of shipping, I know for certain states you also get like a deduction on shipping, um, like your shipping cost, and then or you wanted to just break down your shipping income. This report really helps. If you see at the bottom, it's giving you the totals. So everything at the bottom is your totals. So it really helps you get the breakdown as well as the totals. Any questions with the incoming report? And also you can export this report to Excel. So again, if you wanted to export it to Excel and then save that report, you can do that as well. The next is your outgoing report. Outgoing report is your purchase orders, anything that's to do with the purchasing. It shows what's been, sent, what's it's still in draft mode. If you click on type, Katie, it shows billed versus unbilled, and also helps with, you can select between vendors. So you could say, I just want to see Home Depot, and it gives you all of your purchases for just that vendor. And you can group it by project and then generate the report for that. And same thing, you can export this to Excel. And if you scroll to the right, Katie, It shows your total, your order tracking information, shipping. This is beneficial if you get a shipping deduction. So if you get a deduction on taxes you're paying for the shipping expenses you incurred, some states give it, not all. It's You can get that information from here. And also it gives you all of your linked documents. So if you have an estimate that's linked to it, it'll show you your linked documents. Any questions so far? Great. Okay. So, Katie, if you go back into Finances tab, and then we covered time billing by team member, time billing by project. Yeah, so this is all of your reporting, and under Financial tab, the reports. If you want me to cover any of it, feel free to reach out, or if you wanted any more information, you can always reach out to us and we can always send you more info and material on this. Alrighty, now we
And
can, sorry.
just quickly, I was going to add the selections tracker. Sumang covered it before at the individual project level, but this here is our global tracker. So it's a consolidated tracker basically of all of your trackers. So you can, see overall with all the projects you have underway, where they all are within their procurement status.
Yeah, and this was a huge ask, so super excited for this to be launched for everyone.
Yes, and this one is emailed to you, so it doesn't necessarily generate here on the screen.
Okay, so the next feature that I quickly wanted to cover was budgets. Another great feature. If you go under your project, so you want to click into which project. So this is the Nelson residence we're working on. And then if you scroll down to finance, you will see the budget feature in here. So the budget feature, basically the whole thought process with the budget feature is you are budgeting for your project. So it takes in your estimate. So let's say it's taking in the number from your estimate, putting that in, and your actual is any of your purchase order or any expense. So it's taking the money that you're estimating to make, and then your actual purchase for that for the same thing, and then it's giving you a variance, like if you're positive or negative. So very, very helpful when you are talking to your client. Helps if you wanted to understand, like, hey, we're in a negative or we're heading towards a negative, where can we make money? So helps you plan. So budget features really for your planning and things like that. So great tool, especially if you're running a business. You want to make sure you're not losing money, right? The goal is to make money, and this kind of helps you see where you're making your money. And so uh, a quick overview, this is how it looks. The budget setup is, if you click into your budget setup, you basically can click into your estimates that you want in your budget setup. So let's say that you have 4 estimates under, or in this case, I have 2 estimates under the Nelson project. I can basically select and say, I want these 2 estimates to be part of the budget, like my budget report. And then the same for my purchase order. So I can select and say, I want these 4 purchase orders to be part of my budget. And then you click on sync document. There's a cool feature that has been released, and that's on a document level. You can basically sync it to budget. So you can do it on the document level where you can sync it to a budget, or you can head to your budget under finances, click on budget setup, and then dictate what document you want included in your budget. So as you can see, so this is basically giving me all of my estimates. It's pulling up the variance. So let's take something that has a cost tied to it. So this is my estimated for wood stain. I'm actually my cost was 687, and then my variance is the amount that I'm projected to make from this. So it's giving you the percentage. It's also showing you how much you invoiced for. So you actually invoice for your estimate amount, because sometimes you could estimate to invoice something for a specific amount, but something could come up and you might be invoicing it up or down. So depending on what you're invoicing it for, you can put that amount shows up as well. Any questions on this?
Nope, no questions.
Okay, and another thing that you in another quick thing that I wanted to add in is the actual is pulling up your purchase order, but let's say that you had an expense you wanted to add to this, you could just create an expense and add that, and that's going to show up in your actuals as well. So in this case, I'm going to say $50, and you could say, and this was just so I'm just going to add in an expense, and that is going to also show up in your budget when it comes to budget tracking. And if you wanted to unlink it, you could, but when you create it, it's automatically linked, and it's going to show you that variance in your variance. So great feature, 100%. I recommend like using it, especially when you're doing your planning, forecasting. Great for all of that. So no questions here. Any questions? Or and sorry, you could also toggle between, you can customize. So if you wanted to see also, if you wanted to see your markup and cost, you could toggle and then add that as well.
Okay, great. No questions.
Alrighty, cool. And the next is we can move on to our Google Drive. So Google Drive is if you wanted to add your any files, any folders, just like a quick, so let's say you're having all of that information, you don't need to basically go in and save it and try to upload it. You can Houzz integrates with Google Drive. So to first start your integration, you want to head to the left and then click into settings and then click into Google Drive. And then you basically, it's super simple. You will connect to your Google Drive. So if you hit connect, it's going to pull up your information, like your email that's connected to your Google Drive. And then you go ahead and save it. And that way your Houzz is then linked to your Google Drive. And then there are basically two ways to have that information link up to your project. So if you go into your project, and if you go under files and photos, it basically shows anything that's been uploaded through your Houzz files, so anything that you've added or anything that's part of your Google Drive. And you can also add to your Google Drive here. So this is one way of having your Google Drive information uploaded into Houzz. The next is on a document. So if you have a document, so let's open an estimate. And then if you scroll down, so it's a pretty large estimate, but here, if you go under your files, when you click into attach files, you can upload from your Google Drive as well. So you could do it on a project level where you're like, hey, this information is not specific to a proposal or invoice, but maybe you have like a drawing or something that you wanted to attach for the entire project. You could do it under like the Nelson residence under files and photos. But let's say it's a upload that's specific to a proposal, an invoice, a purchase order. You could just click on attach files and upload it to your document. Any questions so far?
Just one question around the plan types that Google Drive is included in. I believe that it's for our custom plan. Do you know, Suman?
No, but I can get that information. Thank you for asking. I'll see if any of our product team can get that information, and we'll send that over. But I think it's for custom as well, but I don't want to. I want to confirm.
One more question. Can you send a question from Vina around? Can you send pictures from a project to a Houzz idea book, or vice versa? Is there interaction between the project and the idea book?
The idea book, I believe it does not. move from idea book to, but let me test it out, and then I will send you an email, a follow-up email. But thanks for asking. Katie, if you could save those questions and send it over to me, I'll test it and then I'll confirm. Just want to make sure.
Yes, I don't believe you can do that today, but that's a great area of feedback we've also heard from a few other customers.
Yeah, because I'm not sure we can, but just just to make sure that it's
Yeah.
actually, yeah, it doesn't go between. Right. Um, the last feature we're going to cover today is your team members. Team members, where how to manage your team members. So real quick, how to add a team member is if you go under company, and then if you click under team members, this is where you can invite a team member. So you basically click into invite a team member, and then you put in the team member's email, and then you can basically dictate and say, well, is it admin, design, finance? So typically what happens is if you click from either one of these roles, it has some like pre-settings, because it's assuming that if it's finance, they need access to reports or financial reports. So it's giving those pre-permissions. But it doesn't mean that it's like you have to leave it at that. You could then, once you have your team member, you can edit, and then you could also customize how much they can see or what they have access to. So for example, we have this team member, and then there's administrative permission. So accounting integrations is anything to do with your QuickBooks. But if you wanted to give them permission, you could absolutely give any admin permissions, right? So if you want this team member to manage other team members, you could basically check box those permissions. And then you can also dictate project access. So you could say, I just want them to have access to the Nelson residence and not everything else. You could do that. And then if you have this toggled, you can have it toggled on or off. If you have it on, what it does is it grants automatic access to any new project. So you don't have to manually go in and give them access. It automatically gives them access. And if you have this toggled off, then every time there's a new project, you just have to go in and give them access. There's also permission, so for them to view proposals, you can, this is where you would basically dictate that information. We very recently launched email marketing. So now team members can also handle email marketing, which was only for super admin before. And if you wanted to disable or delete a team member, this is where you would do it. So it's under company, team members, and then you have complete access to their permission settings. Any questions regarding this?
Nope, no questions here.
Alrighty, okay. The next is basically collaborating with your team members, which is super important, especially if you have team members across the states or across the world. And this is basically your chat feature that resides within the project. So you can basically chat with the team members. So you could say, well, I want to chat with the entire team. I just want to chat with this one person. And then you can basically send them messages. Like you can just chat them, and then the same way when they respond, it's going to show up in your like a little chat box saying that this was this message came across, and then all of this information, none of your clients can see this information. This is just for your team member. And then you can also assign a project manager to a project. So you could say, he says the project manager, and then that way you can kind of have that control as well. Any questions? This is great. So under projects, you could just, and then you could have like different chats for different projects.
Yeah, and one update we actually just released yesterday is that now you can also have a chat at the overall level. So we initially released this just for projects, but we got a lot of feedback that you want to have conversations. Maybe you're using Slack or another messenger to talk just more generally to your team members. So Suman, if you go to that chat icon in the left navigation, go to midway down. Yes, you can see their new chat. And then you can start a chat, outside of a specific project. Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much for joining, and have a great rest of your day.